everyone, and happy Monday, and welcome to a very special episode of Backchat. I'm Amy, this is my partner Maggie.
Hello.
Backchat is the series where we usually count down our top 10 crowd-funded campaigns for the last 2 weeks, but as things are wrapping up for the year, we thought we would do the same and talk through some of our reflections on a year of backing games, or the year that was of 2021. We backed over 80 games this year.
God, what are we doing?
A lot of games.
What are we doing?
So we have set up our back. We've removed all our games and put some boxes up. And imagine that times probably 8.
Yeah,
That's how many
what is
games will be coming through. I don't know, but it's a lot of games. And
Yeah, that's about 10-ish boxes.
yeah. So we went through our list of 80 games that we did back, and we just thought today this would be quite unstructured. We'd talk about some of the patterns that we're seeing in the types of games that we're backing, and maybe how our taste is changing over time.
Evolving.
Yeah, changing and evolving like us.
Like a Pokemon.
Yeah. I think one interesting thing about this year was that there was a distinct shift in your interest towards adventure games.
I would say, it's a discovery of a genre that, as a themer, I just happened to not had been exposed to, but it makes sense that as soon as I was, thanks to Sleeping Gods, actually, was my, should we say, gateway into deep narrative, thematic type games.
Interestingly, we didn't back Sleeping Gods on Kickstarter, but since we're able to find the Kickstarter edition, and Maggie's mostly played that solo, I dabbled a little bit.
Yes.
But because it's cooperative, as you know, cooperative games don't get a lot of airtime in our household.
Yes.
But this year we did actually spend quite a lot of money on these cooperative, like more open sandbox games.
I'm really excited for next year, actually, because I have a lot of narrative coming my way. But not only that, a lot of them are in this sort of nature, solar punk sort of sphere of theme, which is a world that I really enjoy. So, I think it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, and I'm willing to back them, obviously, so that Maggie can have these amazing solo adventures, but I'm actually intrigued to see if any of them can kind of change my mind about cooperative games. Like, I'm always, open to changing my mind and, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. I think that, Iridia was one that I was really excited about because I like the save system looks really cool.
Yeah.
I really like the little miniatures that have the interchangeable character heads, so you can personalize. Do you remember those? So you can personalize your characters. I thought that was a really cool part of that game.
Cool.
And Earthborn Rangers, which is an exploration sandboxy style game that's mostly played with cards. Really cool, and they've been trying to produce the game really sustainably, which is incredible and great to see. I hope to see more of that next year.
And I think that's one of the big things that sort of stood out to me as we were kind of conceptually looking at all the things that we've backed and looking at all the boxes that we already try and keep so that we can then use them as we are reselling or getting rid of any games that are not going to be part of our collection. I think part of it is that in the environmental impact, sort of wanting to be more responsible around how do we realistically are able to reduce that and be as responsible as possible when we're being irresponsible with money sometimes. But at least I feel like if we can try and support these game designers to do things, publishers to do that, then hopefully we'll see more of it in the future. And there's Mythwind as well.
Mythwind.
The open, no official ending sort of
I feel like that one is really going to test me because there's no ending to the game.
I feel like as long as there are very clear and satisfying goals or even just milestones, that should be enough to keep me excited.
I was excited about that game because in Mythwind you play as different characters, but each character is not only based thematically on a different type of character, whether it's an innkeeper or whatever it is, profession in the village, but also that it's different mechanically.
Yes.
So all of the characters have a really different mechanical way of playing out. So that, of course, got me in, as I was mechanics. different asymmetry with mechanics was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, so I'm excited to actually try that out. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do the co-op thing, but we'll see. What other was it any? Artisans of Splendent Vale
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
So that was another big one that we're really excited about by Renegade Games, and for that campaign, reflecting on that campaign, I just thought it was really incredible. The diversity in the characters, and
absolutely.
yeah, and just how proudly I think Renegade was, kind of marketing that game, and I just think that's wonderful. And of course, we want to see more of that in 2022.
And the artwork, all the aesthetic of the game looks incredible as well, and all the components of it and stickers. It's like amazing. Yeah.
And Nikki Valens is behind it as well, so it's going to be hopefully a really wonderful game experience. So really excited to receive that one next year. Yeah, what about themes?
Well, I went back through the list because I was curious to see, are there any theme, sort of trends in terms of knowing that we usually, there's a lot of themes that we don't tend to like. We don't tend to
a lot
like
of themes that we
fantasy,
don't like.
We don't like sci-fi, we don't like space, we don't like trains usually, we don't like there's a lot of like 90% of the board gaming hobby on first glance is like
it's
stuff
very
that
true.
we don't like.
I always
battle, war.
I always tease Maggie that she's a themer that doesn't like themes.
It's like I like 3 themes. No, but when I started going through the list, there's actually quite a variety of themes. I was surprised.
Yeah, there was.
But there was certainly some clear winners where we tended to back a lot in those areas. The standouts were, there was a bit of a tie between things that are kind of supernatural or in the spirit type realm,
like ghosts and
like ghosts, or things that are like we backed a couple of tarot deck type things,
mostly driven by you. Yes, as in like tarot themed, not just size, like themed.
And I sort of in that I kind of encapsulated things like any game that has like gods, demigods, and deities and that sort of stuff. We had Spirit of Eden, which is by the same team that did The Road, and so that one is again, it's got that sort of spiritual kind of side to it. Oros, Sephiroth, which was one of those.
Sephiroth was a really quite expensive.
It looks so beautiful.
Tarot
I think for
themed
me,
game.
it's like the aesthetic
It is beautiful.
Carries so much weight.
I'm intrigued to see how solid the game is, because I also understand that game can be used as a set of tarot cards. So it's quite always interesting when a game is reverse engineered into like from an adjacent category, an adjacent hobby area. Thing. I'm interested to see what
I don't
that's
know anything about tarot cards, so it's not like I'm like, oh yes, I'm not a connoisseur in that space.
Intrigued by them.
I am very intrigued by it, so I think this will be an interesting sort of area. And The Light and the Mist, which is the other one that is a tarot deck, but that's more of a mystery type.
That's like an escape room in a box, kind of, but centered around tarot cards that have puzzles hidden in them. I'm really excited to receive that one as well.
Yeah, because also the artwork in those is really cool and kind of I'm intrigued for the project. The other big category that was sort of on par was nature. So things that are, other plants related or animals as well.
Oh yeah, like Keystone.
Like Keystone. We had Dog Park.
Dog park
and hecking hounds.
Yes.
So it's like we've got the dog walking, regular dog walking, and then we have the more like supernatural dog walking in hell.
I feel like the hobby has actually shifted towards like nature-based themes. Like obviously there's been some really big popular titles like Wingspan and Parks, and I think that it kind of showed people that a game doesn't have to be about conflict and fighting and war and fantasy. And I think that there's a lot of gamers that really appreciate those themes. Yeah. And so I hope that continues, because, I just thought of another one. Verdant was another game that we backed. Excited to get the next one in that series of games.
Cat as well. With cats. Yeah. So that was the other. And I kind of put a lot of my... well, I'm calling them the big adventure campaigns. A lot of them are very kind of nature driven, and it's that solar punk area that I love. So those were the two most popular
themes.
And then the next one is exploration, which is again fairly similar. I just love anything where there's discovery, and so there's Fjords was one of them. Beautiful artwork as well.
That was a reprint of an older game, and also Ice.
Yes.
So Ice is cool because it's an exploration game of sorts, because you're digging down and the board itself actually has 5 layers of tiles that represent the different layers of ice, and you're going to be discovering things in there.
Yeah.
So the production level of that game is just
that looks
amazing.
really
So that was
cool.
like a highlight of 2021. I really
Yeah.
enjoy seeing like innovative approaches to like, you know, an exploration theme, but actually you're physically exploring on that
going
board.
through a 3D map in a way. Yeah.
That was really cool. I
Yeah.
thought some other like themes that stood out to me when I was thinking about it was like hegemony, which
Hegemony?
is hegemony. Hegemony.
Yeah.
Hegemony. Not a word that I use in
Hegemony?
everyday conversation.
Yeah.
But hegemony, obviously, are playing out kind of
Different classes, social classes.
yeah. Different social classes as well, like kind of representing the government, playing as these asymmetric different groups. I thought that was really interesting. Loop is another one that stands out to me, the life of ordinary people, which is all about consumerism
Yeah.
and like wastefulness. And that was another campaign that I think that was out of Hong Kong, and it did things quite interestingly around like sustainability and just in line with the ethos of the game, which was, I thought, really cool and different.
And the other one, which is a bit of a stretch, but it's kind of in there's John Company, which is talking
yeah.
it's almost like a satirical look as well at some of the class, the classes of, what was it, around the time of the what's it called? The East...
Indian Trading Company?
Yes, that's it. Like the first company, which was a ship. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so lots of interesting...
More of an economic game, I
another
feel
like theme that I thought was quite interesting was like, so you've been eaten. So,
Yeah.
you know, that game was all about actually being consumed. And then in line with that, Snack Time, the little card game that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
about
the
being
monster.
monsters in the sewers and like trying to eat pedestrians walking past. So there's like kind of a lot of like quirky themes that
Yeah.
came through
Yeah.
this year. And one type of game that we backed a lot of was trick-taking games.
Yes.
There were a lot of trick-taking games. I don't know if there were more or if it's just now really on our radar.
Yeah, that could be
Could be it. But I feel like they are gaining popularity, especially, you know, with games like The Crew becoming like
Yes.
so popular
Yep.
that there's now a lot of trick-taking games that are coming out and being imported from like places like Japan,
Yeah.
where they've been, you know, really popular for a long time. So getting English translation. So it just feels like there's a lot of momentum in the trick-taking world.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like even a lot of mainstream studios are incorporating trick-taking into sort of bigger release type games. So
Yeah.
it's not just this, you know, subsection of the gaming hobby is sort of, becoming more mainstream. So,
And we did not grow up playing trick-taking games.
Not at all, yeah.
So it's relatively new to us as a like genre.
Yeah.
And a few that we backed this year included American Bookshop from coming out of Japan, which is super cute. The box looks like a little book. That's what I remember about it. Hecking Hounds that you already mentioned, which is a really interesting trick-taking game because aside from the theme where you're playing as the dog walker in kind of hell.
yeah. I think it's like they're the dogs of the demons in hell, and so you're
the dog walker.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about
Someone's
it
got to do it.
is that it's a game where the cards don't have full information about your hand of cards. In fact, your hand of cards faces outwards. And so it's kind of about deducing the cards that you have in order to play tricks.
Yeah.
Interesting concept. And then Ghosts of Christmas was another one that was actually, I believe, a translation of a Japanese game again. And in Ghosts of Christmas, when you're playing tricks, you're playing them to the past, present, or future. So that's a really interesting mechanic, I thought, as well. So yeah, lots of like interesting trick-taking games.
Yeah, and I think, and I've said this before, I don't know why, because trick-taking is not usually super thematic. There's been a couple of trick-taking games that I'm like, this is really interesting how they've brought in a little thematic element. But I don't know why, I really, really enjoy trick-taking.
You're quite good at it too, I have to say. It's one of the areas where I struggle to win.
Maybe that's why I've taken to it.
Maybe that's why I keep buying them. I got to find some that I can win.
Where you finally are like, yes, I can
Now-
beat Maggie at this. Yeah.
If you look at the 80 or so games that we backed this year, Euro certainly reigns supreme.
They're
still the number one.
Still the one.
Yeah, they're still the one where we're like, yes, I think we need to play this. The year kicked off with a bang with Darwin's Journey. So that was a huge campaign and one that we immediately backed. Just by looking at the board, you could tell that this was something that we would enjoy. A classic Euro with a point salad style, lots of things that you can get done. The componentry was beautiful. Hegemony, of course. Hegemony. This is going to be a long running thing in this video. Resurgence as well. So that was a recent one.
Just the other kind of theme, like the survival or post-apocalyptic kind of came in later after the ones that I've talked about. But that is another theme. Because the road was also that Radlands, which...
Oh, you're talking about the theme?
Yeah.
The theme sorry, I'm on the Euro train.
Yeah. No, as well.
Yes.
Both. Yes.
Both. So Resurgence was an interesting worker placement mixed with bag building, and we wanted to back that one. And the theme was really cool. And recently we should talk about the fact that just now there is a live campaign called the Palaces of Carrara. Carrara? That's actually really hard to say as well.
Carrara.
Which is a reprint and modernization of a Kramer and Kiesling game that has been notoriously out of print. And so that is back and currently on GameFound. So check that out if you haven't already. We have backed that game. But I'm just excited because, again, sometimes I look at a campaign and you even looked at it too and you went, yeah, that's for us.
Yeah, that looks
you
like
just
us.
know.
Yeah.
You just know. If you're into Euros and you see that, I don't know, the dry Euro just has a real look about
There's
it.
a vibe that you get immediately as soon as you glance over. You're like, I'll play that. Yeah, for sure.
So tell me more. I'm collecting resources.
And there's multiple ways of getting to victory. And there's very low luck, if any luck involved.
And there's a point track around the outside. This looks like a game for me. So we have backed a lot of different Euros. Some games that, I wrote down here that there's some games that actually I'm just intrigued by and I keep thinking about them. Like when I was reflecting on what we've backed in 2021, I was thinking a lot about some of the ones that stood out to me was John Company, like you mentioned. We've been on this journey, with Leader Games in terms of having PAX Premier second edition and how much we loved that game. And that, we featured that on the channel quite early into the channel. And then since then, we had Oath, and Oath again was it just stood out to us as it was a game that we played so much prior to reviewing it. And we went really deep.
It was
with
very
that one.
unique to us. It's because we don't really play those sorts of games, and so it was a really great introduction to. I understand that's the PAX games. It sort of it made a lot of those concepts friendlier.
Understanding I guess being tactical rather than strategic it was quite new to us. And also, so John Company, I'm hearing some scary things about the length of that rule book.
46 pages.
46 pages. So I hope it's not as hard for us to learn as Oath was, but by the same token...
Why is it 46 pages? I hope there's a lot of images, and the images are taking up a lot of room.
I hope so too, but again, I think it's going to be a pretty heavy game, but it's just really intriguing to us. Another game I was really intrigued by that came out of nowhere this year was For Glory. I hadn't heard about it originally, and there was a campaign for expansion and reprint, and I was like, what is this game? And there was a lot of talk about how amazing this deck builder is, and we love a good deck builder.
I love good deck building.
So it was really interesting because you're drafting different types of cards to set yourself up for then going into battle in the Colosseum.
Gladiator themed.
Yeah. So that one was another interesting one. What intrigued you? What stands out in your mind?
Well, the other one, and again, I go back to theme, the sort of mad scientist or eccentric scientist. So there's My Father's Work.
Yes.
And Weather Machine.
Yes.
Are both, and again, big Euro games. I'm intrigued with My Father's work with the legacy component of not the legacy component, but that over generations and then things carrying over with those different generations.
Yeah, you play over generations, but also the game itself is scenario based, which is really interesting as well. And I believe there's an app at the center of the game, which is something, again, as Euro lovers, that hasn't been a huge part of our gaming experience because those games tend to not have a lot of narrative generally. There's no need for an app. But we played Destinies this year, which
we really enjoyed that.
Really enjoyed that, and so that made me more intrigued to play more games that do have an app.
I feel this year the games that we have played that have had an app, they've actually worked really well. I feel like a couple of years ago it felt really clunky, things that were trying to use an app.
They're getting better at it.
I think it's probably because the ones that we did play this year they were using it to supplement the narrative side. So that's worked out well.
It has worked out well so far. So we'll see with my father's work. Another game that is currently on Kickstarter that we have backed and would like to mention again because we haven't been doing back chat is Shikoku 1889. And I'm intrigued by this because we've been talking about this on the channel forever and we just haven't had the time to get deep into 18xx. It's something that we've been wanting to do. I'm sure at some point, we'll be able to learn from someone about 18xx, but we do own 1861, 1867 combo, and it's been sitting on our shelf in shrink, and we haven't touched it. But what intrigued me about Shikoku 1889, aside from the fact that it is set in Japan, which obviously always excites me, but it's is meant to be good for beginners.
Yeah, I've heard that. It's meant to be one of the better introductions into the genre.
Yeah. So for me, that's like instant back because I'm like, so you can make it easier for me? Excellent.
I'll have it.
I'll have it. So we have backed that one and I'm super intrigued by not just that game, but just 2022 has got to be the year where we try an 18xx game.
That's the thing. We're going to have to do a bit of a challenge, like set ourselves some kind of challenge in this.
Otherwise it won't happen. We'll have to schedule it in. Otherwise it won't happen.
Yeah. Make it so that, we have to have an external accountability to it. Like speak it out so that then we can't escape it. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of accountability, the next topic that I wanted to talk about was dollars. So 2021, obviously, there was a lot of shipping crises around the world. So shipping went up quite a lot. Our exchange rate has been not great.
Not great at all.
Not very good. And so, we're constantly having to convert everything to Australian dollars. So that combined with shipping. And then some of the games that we've backed have been really expensive this year as well. There's always some that are like, eye-wateringly expensive. But, quite compelling and you want to support them and you want to get in at the Kickstarter level. So I thought I'd talk about some of the most expensive games that we've purchased.
Okay, what took the price? What took the trophy?
Yeah, I mean, there's some conversions and things, but I would say that kind of at the top of the list is Everdell.
Yeah.
So it's a game that we hadn't, we have never played it.
No. And I think I'm going to absolutely love it. Like everything about it, like aesthetically speaking, just looks so beautiful and inviting and I just can't wait.
Yeah. And so, we've been holding off because now we've backed the kind of all-in, everything Everdell is getting delivered in the big box and super excited about that. But that means that we have to hold off playing it.
I know. Keep walking past places and
the retail copy's there and we're like, maybe we should just get it.
But it's coming.
But that was obviously very expensive. But, relative to if you had have backed all the individual pieces, I know that it was actually a significant saving of buying everything together, but it just means that we've had to wait a lot longer for that ability. So, Everdell was one of the most, if not the most expensive.
Yeah.
The Iridia Earthborn Rangers, the Mythwind, all of those
campaigns.
Those are expensive.
To be fair, they should be hundreds of hours of fun.
Wow. Speaking of challenge, I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if I need to break it down into how many hours per week to get through it. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. It's like, how, if any of you have any tips on how to make more hours in the day, I would really appreciate, any advice that you can give.
To squeeze the most out every day.
Yes.
Weather Machine, that was expensive, but I think the caveat with this one is Lacerda games are always expensive. And for Australians, especially so. It's really hard for us to get access to the stock, and the secondhand market tends to be almost as expensive as getting it at the Kickstarter. So it's like there's not much saving, even if you wait to try and eventually find a secondhand copy. So I mean, that's how you justify it, right?
I feel like you always get a really solid game underneath, because even the games that we haven't, enjoyed, that haven't really been for us, it's like it still feels like a solid gaming experience
and super collectible.
From
my perspective, like I love the big boxes. I love the Ian O'Toole art. Just everything about that series of games is just amazing. So Where the Machine was really expensive. Another expensive one was Isle of Cats, and it was especially expensive because it didn't include the base game. So now this was really expensive, but I just love Frank the designer, and the love and care that's gone into creating this game, Isle of Cats. It's a game that for us sits a little bit light for our taste.
Yes.
But it's super great for getting people into gaming.
So much table time. Yeah, it's ridiculous because it's a perfect gateway. People can understand the polyomino thing. It looks great on the table. It's like, oh, cats, and they're all different kind of funky colors.
It's cute.
It's a crowd pleaser.
It's really well made. And so we went in and backed the 2-minute box, which is basically allows you to keep everything neat inside the box, because it comes with the new Kittens expansion and Beasts expansion to go into the box as well. And we also got the Explore and Draw Roll and Write as part of that campaign, which of course, it makes perfect sense for Isle of Cats to be a roll and write.
Absolutely.
On the little boats drawing polyomino tiles. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sick of polyomino tiles.
I don't know what it is about polyomino shape puzzles. I wonder what that is. It's like the brain just likes to go, yes, that fits there. Yeah. I think it's because the brain loves to categorize things.
That's true.
And so it's just so satisfying when something just fits. You know how there's that whole, you probably don't know because I'm the one who goes down like crazy YouTube rabbit holes. There's a whole series of videos where it's just like satisfying moments where someone's like putting something into a cupboard and it just fits, and different things and they just fit, and it's like, oh yes. So there's obviously something psychologically that happens, which must be the same thing with when you find the perfect combination of the shape and the angle and the there's a little, is it serotonin, dopamine?
It's like packing release. A suitcase.
Or the back of the car,
or your board game shelf,
or the board game shelf.
The board game shelf. But I think that,
unlike this is not a very good polyomino example with all these.
No, boxes. This is like what the rest of our house looks like. I was going to say that I think, as a 90s child, the Tetris association is so strong. I spent so many hours playing that perhaps it's burnt into my brain, the how to fit them all together.
Yeah, ding, doo, 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 doo. And then it's like, oh no, it's sort of committed and sort of sent it down just one block too far, and then it's just all over.
Although I wonder if that's the same with new or future generations, because maybe they're playing games that are not as simple as Tetris, and will they have the same love for polyomino tiles? Don't know.
Only time will tell. Yeah.
So that was a really expensive game also, but one that we're super excited to receive. There was a couple of non-game backs. Well, there were more than a couple. But there were some that are closely related to gaming. So I got myself the Red Grass Wet Palette for painting miniatures. Yeah. And admittedly, I haven't been painting that many miniatures lately. It's come into summer. So
we packed it all away when lockdown sort of finished, because it was like, oh, okay, we can now open the house again and not have to be locked in the house.
Yes.
And then you haven't painted.
Well, because recently. I've packed them away because it is summer, and so for me it's very much a winter hobby, and no doubt when it starts to get cold and dreary again, I will pull out the paints.
That is one of the challenges. We want to get rid of, I think we want to do a good culling at the start of the year, which then will mean that we'll have space to then have a little corner that can be like a permanently set up for painting type corner.
Absolutely.
So at the moment it's just taken over with board games.
Yeah, hopefully in time for my red grass wet palette to arrive.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was hoping would arrive before Christmas, but I thought it was pretty ambitious, especially getting it to Australia, is the Meeple light. So if you hadn't seen this campaign, it's a giant light that is meeple shaped. That's it. But it comes with an attachment that allows you to sit the meeple on top of a Christmas tree, which is super cool. And I would love to have put that on top of my mum's Christmas tree, whether she liked it or not. But it hasn't arrived.
It wasn't to be
wasn't
this year.
to be, sad face.
Yeah.
But that means next year we will have a meeple light. And,
That's right.
you know, it works as a regular light anyway. So hopefully we'll also have some new shelving and we can put that little meeple light up on our new shelves.
That'd be fun.
We backed some expansions, but this is interesting. This is a reflection on 2021 and getting into content creation. I feel like we've been buying fewer and fewer expansions. It could also be a reflection on the fact that so many great games and the hobby is growing. And so many new great games are coming out all the time.
Yeah.
And it means that, like, I love my old games. We still play our old games, but when we go back to them, it's not like I've played this 50 times this week, so I would like an expansion now, please. It's like returning to an old, well-worn pair of slippers.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm trying to fit that analogy in my head. How do you ever have an expansion to your old pair of slippers?
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't need it. It just is, and you come back to it, it's familiar.
Yeah.
And it's just fine. And I'm not like craving something new because I've got newness covered by all of the hotness.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I again, this year in particular, one of the things that I've discovered about, because of all the content creation, is one of the aspects that I enjoy the most is the discovery. And even in my profile, my player profile, like discovery and exploration is one of my lead drivers when I'm gaming. And so for me, just the fact that, like, I would always usually prefer to play a new game and try out a new sort of adventure and have a new dialogue with a game designer through the game, than go back and like add a little something different to something that I've already experienced. Even if it's something that I really love and enjoy, it doesn't mean that I'm going to enjoy it, that I'm going to love the core thing less. But if you give me the choice, I'm always going to want to check out the new discovery sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I am finding that unless it's a game that's, top 10 worthy, and I just I want everything to do with that game. Yeah. That's when I'll get all the expansions. But other than that, well, I shouldn't say top 10. It's probably more like top 30. If it's in the top 30, then I'm interested about the expansions. Maybe. But we did back a few
top
expansions.
30, do you mean like top 30, like that could possibly make it to your top 30 of all time type game? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean more like games that I really, truly love that I would like to see more content for.
Yeah.
I don't think if there's a game that's like, I like it okay, I need to get everything for it. I don't feel like the same level of like, I don't feel like as a collector, I need to have every part of every game actually.
Yeah. Well, that's it, because I'm not really a collector. You're the collector in the two of us. And I'm usually also not great with detail, which means that's why I love like, what's this new thing, or what's the hook of this thing, or what makes this unique, or what's innovative about this. And so often I find that expansions will they don't tend to completely revolutionize the game. They'll either improve it a bit, or they'll plug in, some holes, or they'll evolve it a bit. But the core of the game is already, it's always kind of going to be the same.
That is true.
So I think that's probably what holds me back from expansions a bit.
And I used to be, as when I was more of a collector than a player, I suppose I used to like to try and get all of the promos that would come out for a game as well. But the more that I play, I realize that, those are just something a little bit extra. They don't really add a lot, generally speaking, to the game. And I get a lot of people are like completionists and want to have everything, but I feel like I've moved away from that now. So we didn't back a lot of expansions this year. We backed a few. Root the Marauders.
Yes.
And also the new plushie.
Oh, plushies. Yes, we do love plushies.
We do. And we have Root.
Root is one of those things that we need to play properly. I played on the app.
Yes, I've played on the app as well.
Yeah.
We both have the app.
And so getting it, and again, that was one of those things that we actually got hard copy of it when the lockdown was
Yes.
right in the middle of it. So we didn't actually have any other people to play it with.
Yeah, and we know that there are ways to play it at 2, but and I think that is actually improved by this expansion, which is one of the reasons why we went in on that campaign. But ultimately, we really want to try it at like all the players, all the different creatures.
And its ultimate, ideal player count.
Yeah, so that is on the as soon as we can now that we're out of lockdown list. We also backed the Architects and Paladins of the West Kingdom, both expansions. There were 2 campaigns, and we've received both of those. I really messed up with the Paladins.
We don't even have Paladins, the base.
We don't have the base game, but I was intending to get it, and I didn't realize how their whole like system works, that you had to actually. I thought I could pick it up in the Pledge Manager.
There were a lot of Pledge Manager disasters in general this year.
Oh my goodness,
yes.
Yes, that could be a whole topic in and of itself. Ooh. I did some terrible things this year with Pledge Managers. In backing 80 games, but also in all of the other games from last year that didn't get delivered because of COVID, and then just like the overwhelming amount of emails that you now get as soon as you even follow a game. Like, it's just, you wake up and there's 30 emails from Kickstarter or GameFound, and I'm like, which one of these? Like, can you please have a system where it's got a red flag on it that I need to action something?
This is critical.
This is critical now.
Email.
And also, a lot of stuff gets lost in junk email. A lot of stuff, like one whole system, I wasn't even receiving their emails, so I'd missed like 20.
Not to throw you under the bus, even though that's exactly what I'm about to do.
Yeah, I feel like that's coming.
But you do sign up to so many completely unrelated newsletters and then never unsubscribe. And I'm like, why are you still receiving newsletters from this thing that, we're never ever going to... It's like, just unsubscribe. It's just like, I'm forever unsubscribing. And you still, even when you unsubscribe from everything, you still get a truckload of junk, let alone the stuff that you actually do need to access.
FOMO. It's FOMO. And I go through this almost every day because I get junk and I'm like, I really should unsubscribe to this, and I'm too lazy to go through the link to unsubscribe and do it.
It's literally one click,
and
most of the time. Sometimes it's 2 clicks.
I'm trying to do it a bit more recently because it is getting overwhelming. And another thing is, I've had the same Hotmail my whole life, and I'm still use Hotmail, so it's like 90s, and it has it's like never-ending storage, so it doesn't really like need to be cleaned out. It just goes on forever.
That's interesting, because recently, wasn't there a whole thing where they changed it so that you couldn't actually access? But I think if you have you couldn't, a lot of the saved stored emails you had to pay for. But then if you had a paid subscription, which I have a Microsoft 360, which I think you probably do as well, and that's sort of rolled into that.
I don't know.
But I think that was a traumatizing thing for a lot of people, where they actually had to face losing all of those.
I don't really care about losing emails that are that old.
I mean, how could you even know what's in there?
Well, it's more that I do tend to lose a few Kickstarter emails.
Yeah, that's tricky.
But also there were a lot of things that emails weren't coming through to me.
Yeah.
And I really
through no fault of your own.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that like when an email isn't coming through to me and I haven't seen it, like I wish there was an easier way for creators to deal with people within Kickstarter, to be like, hey, because they're separate, the Pledge Manager and I don't know. It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So, what were we even talking about? Expansions.
Expansions.
So Paladins, I messed that up. That was my bad, because they said all over the campaign that this is how you need to do it, and I just messed that up. So totally, that was on me. And the Clinic expansions. Yep. So we did a full review of Clinic, the game, around that time, and we are backing the expansions, and you really enjoy Clinic. It's quite a heavy game.
It is quite a heavy game, but I'm excited about some of the scenarios, because it's going to be like campaign style things, so I'm excited for those. That's what I'm keen to try.
Yeah, so a few expansions, but not too many. Some games actually have already been delivered. So games that we've backed in 2021 have turned up on the doorstep. One of those was just a reprint, so that's understandable. The Road, the English edition of The Road.
Which I love.
Which is a solo game that even I enjoyed.
You were more into it when we were looking through the campaign, and then when we started playing it, I'm like, this is everything that I love in a game. It's survival.
Yeah, I was the one that wanted to back it, because the theme
Glad you did.
was interesting, but obviously mechanically, once I read into the rules, I was like, I feel like this is really going to come together well. And it does.
So simple and just nice. It
really
just
quite
works.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've received Tinner's Trail, but we haven't yet opened it. It's in
Shelf
Shrink.
of Opportunity.
Shelf of Opportunity. Terraforming Mars, the Ares Expedition.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
Thoroughly
it is,
enjoyed.
Yeah, it's very good. Maggie's
Yeah.
a big fan of Terraforming Mars.
And people in the Discord and like, well, some of the members in the Discord saying, "Hey Maggie, you know, Star Realms, space, and Terraforming Mars. Are we bringing you over to the space theme?" I'm like, look, a great game design will always, you know, win me over no matter the theme. There's probably going to be some,
Yeah, I liked
caveats,
Ares
but,
Expedition.
yeah.
I thought it had some of the, you know, the same fun things like the card play. Obviously, it's been really popular. I love that we got the Kickstarter edition because of the double layered boards.
Yeah, that's
and
helpful.
Yeah, it's all that was really nice actually. And also we got the neoprene mats,
Yes.
and I really like having that all organized as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, that was good.
Radlands, obviously,
loved.
came through
Yes.
for you this year,
Yes.
and it was just featured in one of our last video from last week, which was
Yes.
you know, top 2-player games. So
Yes.
that's a bit of a spoiler, but check that out because
Yes.
Radlands over delivered. I think sometimes campaigns come in and you're not quite sure if they're going to be as good as, you know, what you're reading, but this was actually better, I thought. Like, I thought it was going to be good when I looked at it. The art looked like it could have been good, but the actual reality of it was really beautiful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the
Super fun
gameplay,
game.
and there's just so many little things in it that I quite enjoy and surprised me because again, on the surface, aside from the beauty, like the aesthetic being something that I really enjoyed, none of it should have been things that I would have connected with.
Yeah.
And yet I did.
Yeah,
So,
really did. Yeah. And we both really enjoy that game.
Yes.
And then speaking of aesthetics, that was one thing in 2021 that I think, and in board games generally
Yeah.
speaking, the artwork and, you know, the artists being heroed because it's just getting so amazing. The components are getting better.
Yeah.
Like Kickstarter, I feel like because the campaigns are trying to draw you in,
Yeah.
it's created this momentum of like games being deluxeified, which is then spread out to the retail world as well, because obviously all games are trying to compete with each other and for
Yeah.
your time and attention.
Yeah.
And so aesthetics are getting really better. Like Steam Up this year, like that was incredible.
Can't wait for those like squishy dim sum components.
Yeah, and the little bamboo baskets
Yeah.
and
That's
beautiful.
That's gonna be great.
Dog Park that you mentioned earlier
That
with
also
the
looked really
the
beautiful.
watercolor drawings of each of the individual dogs, like that
dog
looks super
breeds.
beautiful.
Yeah.
What else? A Dawn. There was a little card game called Dawn that, you know, normally you may not have been as drawn into, but the artwork was so beautiful that like the campaign really spoke to me. So that was a little card game that we backed.
Yeah, Artisans of Splendid Vale again. It's also beautiful. I really enjoyed that aesthetic.
Yeah. Ice, of course, with
Ice,
the
yes.
not just the layered board, but the artwork itself. I thought was gorgeous.
Yes.
And Flamecraft,
Oh,
with all the
yes.
little
So
dragons,
cute.
so beautiful, and
Yes,
making
that was
art
gorgeous.
prints available as part of that campaign. And they actually really heroed the artists throughout that campaign, and I really like appreciated that because sometimes the artist doesn't get as much, you know, fanfare as the designer, and I just thought that was really cool as well. And so
I was actually going to say, like now on reflection as we're talking about it, I feel like I've sort of gone through a bit of an evolution of initially when we started backing campaigns, I was very drawn to the components. So deluxe components were the things I'm like, ooh, metal coins, ooh, you know, this sort of squishy thing. Ooh. And like, no, I still appreciate them, but now I'm actually finding that I'm more attracted. It's like, that's a nice to have, but not a must. The artwork overall, kind of like the presence and the general aesthetic of the game is by far one of the, it's very shallow, I know, but it's by far one of the biggest draw
it's
cards.
not, because a game is meant to entertain you, and for you, part of that is about
creating that world.
the world and the ambience and everything. And I appreciate artwork because it's less about me and more about like, now I can recruit some more friends into gaming because they see it on the table and they're like, what is that? Like, and I didn't know that a game could look like that. And you're like, well, why don't you sit down? I'll teach you. So I like that. It brings new people into the hobby.
It's the old, shiny. That is for a reason. Again, it's another thing that as humans, like we're attracted to something that, you know, looks interesting and looks beautiful.
I do agree though that I'm less drawn in by deluxeification for deluxeification's sake. Like there has been a lot of that, and a lot of, you know, and part of that is like, you know, thinking about consumption as well, and whether things need to always be, you know, much more, or we need to have 10 boxes of a game that arrives on its own pallet to your house, and it's like, I don't need all of that. So
let's just take it easy.
So now just thinking about like what does a game need, and how can it be really special but not necessarily over engineering the game, and also offering good value. So I'm still looking for that when I look at campaigns, because especially now it's really hard with the shipping and everything.
There are a lot of also before, like I remember a lot of the earlier campaigns, we were like, ooh, minis, it's got mini. And now it's like, that's less of a draw card, and it's more like, well, no, let's look at the game, and it's because there's a lot of amazing minis out there at the moment, but it's like, because there's a lot of them, it's like now we kind of need to be more discerning.
I think the whole hobby is going through that though.
Yeah.
It's like we've gone through that wave. Now we're pairing back again, and that's what always happens. Is like there's a trend, and everyone jumps in on the trend, and then we pair back, and it becomes part of the landscape, but not like the only thing that we care about. But yeah, I really want to see. I guess for 2022, I want to see more innovation. Like I think that's what I'm looking for now, is really like uniqueness in games. We have so many games. Like I really like something that either has like a mechanical interesting hook about it, or you know, the theme is something that we haven't seen before, or just doing something differently, like bringing in elements of like puzzles and I don't know, I'm excited.
New experience. Like, kind of creating a new experience.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. And especially like with technology becoming more integrated as well into games. Like everything.
There's a lot of potential and opportunity, I guess.
There's a lot of exciting things that could happen in 2022. And not the least of which is what's happening at the moment with Kickstarter.
Yes.
And blockchain and NFTs.
I don't really know.
And I don't really understand.
How that works.
We don't understand that. I try to understand that. And, you know, when I read sentences.
And please don't explain it to us. I know it's one of those. It's like, it's the running joke of like, no, just stop explaining it. No. And I say that in jest. But, I don't really understand a lot. I know enough about it, but not enough to really be able to have a good
educated conversation about it, or opinion about it. But I guess I would say that I think all companies, when they're taking money from you and taking money from the hardworking artist or professional who's like trying to put something out into the world, is that they should have their end users in mind. They should be trying to improve themselves for the benefit of their community. And I hope that they do listen to some of the feedback that they are very loudly getting, but it should be an interesting shake up to the industry. We might see early next year a lot of games actually shifting. I've seen publishers saying that they're going to move their
platforms.
Campaigns to GameFound. So GameFound might actually really benefit, and there might be a complete shake-up. We might see a new entrant. I don't know, but that's something else to look out for in 2022.
Yeah, that could be very interesting. And who knows, there might be even like new pop-up platforms that see now an opening for this.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. But this is our backtrack for 2021. We
revisit.
We have spent many Mondays with you talking about different campaigns. Each Monday when we have back chat, we go through around 30 to 35 campaigns. We spend a lot of time really getting to know our top 10, and then, you know, obviously distilling that down for you to explain the games and tell you what we're backing. It's a really enjoyable process, and we really love that all of you share what you're backing and your opinions on campaigns as well, and what's happening and games. Just it's created such a wonderful community, and it started with me doing Kickstarter diaries and talking to what felt like talking to myself, but also like a few of you who have been watching for that long, and now I've dragged Maggie into crowdfunding. And it's been like quite the journey, but we're so grateful to have your support. And I guess we want to wrap up this video by asking for your feedback. We have the opportunity. This is our channel. We can do what we like.
Do whatever we want.
And we spend a lot of time and effort each week in small talk and back chat, and we know that those two series are very popular and we love doing them. But is there anything else that you would like to see from us, particularly in this space in back chat? Do you enjoy the format? What do you find most useful about the series? And we'd be happy to take that feedback on board and make some adjustments next year.
Yeah, we'll be listening.
We'll be
like
listening.
Kickstarter says, but we don't know if they will do. But we will actually be
will,
listening.
We'll definitely be listening.
But hopefully they do listen.
And we do this, honestly, we do this for you, so we want it to be useful. So thank you very much for watching in 2021. We're wishing you all a really happy holidays. We'll be back with probably at least one more video before the end of the year. But this is it for Back Chat. So thank you very much, and back responsibly. And we will see you next year for more campaigns.
Yes.
But bye for now.
Bye.